Before there was sound, before light, before the first movement of time, there was geometry. The ancient mystics spoke of it not as a human invention, but as the divine language through which reality was spoken into being. Every atom, every cell, every galaxy, unfolding through patterns so perfect that even chaos seemed to obey them. They called it the sacred measure, the geometry of God's thought. Look around you. The veins of a leaf mirror the branches of a tree. The spiral of a seashell mirrors the spiral of a galaxy. Even the rhythm of your heart follows mathematical cadence, echoing the same ratios that govern the pulse of the stars. This is not coincidence. This is design. A living blueprint woven through every layer of creation. In the emerald tablets of Thoth, the Atlantean priest-king declared, "As above, so below, as within, so without." Those words were not poetic metaphors, they were equations. They spoke of a universe structured through mirrored forms, repeating endlessly from the infinite to the infinitesimal. The sages of Kemet knew this. They lined their pyramids not merely as tombs, but as resonant instruments of geometry. Each angle, each ratio, harmonizing with the Earth's magnetic fields and the heavens above. To them, stone was not dead, it was alive with vibration. And when shaped with divine proportion, it became a bridge between worlds. In the East, the seers of the Vedas described creation as a cosmic sound, Om, the vibration that birthed all form. But hidden within that vibration was mathematics. For every sound creates a pattern when it moves through matter, a mandala of resonance, geometry brought to life through frequency. The sages called it Nada Brahma, the universe is sound. But sound was only the voice of form. Everywhere the ancients looked, they found the same truth repeated. Number governs creation. From the spiral to the circle, from the cube to the tetrahedron, each shape was a doorway, a key to the unseen order behind reality. Pythagoras, the mystic mathematician of ancient Greece, taught that all things are numbers. To him, mathematics was not a cold discipline, it was sacred theology. He spoke of a harmony of the spheres, a music played by the movements of planets, where each orbit created tones that formed the grand symphony of existence. You, me, the stars, we were all notes in that eternal song. Even now, scientists are beginning to rediscover what the ancients already knew, that the universe is not built from matter, but from pattern. Quantum physicists describe subatomic particles not as solid points, but as oscillations, vibrations that align into geometric lattices of energy. Light itself moves in waveforms that trace the same spirals found in the nautilus shell. It's as if the cosmos is whispering through every form and frequency. I am made of order. I am made of number.
But here is the mystery. If geometry governs everything, from the orbit of planets to the rhythm of breath, then who designed the geometry itself? Who set the ratio of the circle, the measure of the spiral, the law of proportion that binds chaos into harmony?
Long before our modern world was built with steel and glass, there were temples of light and stone, structures that whispered of higher dimensions. The ancients were not primitive, they were mathematicians of the divine. Each civilization became a custodian of the same cosmic blueprint, interpreting it through their own symbols, myths, and monuments.
In Kemet, the land we now call Egypt, geometry was sacred science. The Great Pyramid of Giza was not merely a tomb, it was a hymn to proportion. Its dimensions encode the number of days in a solar year, the curvature of the Earth, and even the ratio of pi, knowledge modern science would rediscover thousands of years later. Every block of limestone was laid in resonance with celestial harmony. Each angle, each shadow aligned with the cardinal directions, as though the builders sought to merge heaven and earth into one living equation. The priests of Thoth believed that when architecture mirrored cosmic geometry, the temple became a portal, a point where divine and material reality converged. The human entered as flesh and left as light. And within the innermost chambers, initiates were taught the geometry of the soul, the proportions of resurrection, the mathematics of ascension. Centuries later, the Greeks inherited and refined this wisdom. Pythagoras, who studied in Egyptian temples, returned to Greece with a revelation that numbers were not quantities, but living archetypes. He saw in the Tetractys, a triangle formed by 10 dots, the harmony of creation itself. 1 point becoming 2, 2 becoming 3, and 3 forming the structure of 10, the completion of the divine cycle. To Pythagoras and his followers, geometry was not simply a study of shapes, it was an act of worship. Drawing a circle was invoking the infinite. Constructing a triangle was balancing spirit, mind, and matter. They believed the soul itself was geometric, its harmony determining its beauty and evolution. Plato later wrote in Timaeus that the universe was built from 5 perfect forms, the Platonic solids, cube, tetrahedron, octahedron, dodecahedron, and icosahedron. He taught that the Creator used these forms as the scaffolding of reality, each corresponding to an element: earth, fire, air, ether, and water. Even now, these shapes are found within the structure of molecules, crystals, and viruses. It's as if Plato's words were not philosophy, but prophecy. Meanwhile, in the East, the rishis of India meditated on geometry as divine vibration. They did not build monuments of stone, they built inner temples of sound and form. Their sacred diagrams, the yantras and mandalas, were living blueprints of the cosmos. The Sri Yantra, perhaps the most revered, encodes 9 interlocking triangles that represent the union of the masculine and feminine energies, the dance of Shiva and Shakti, spirit and matter. At its center lies the Bindu, the point of singularity from which all creation expands and to which it returns. It is no coincidence that the Sri Yantra's proportions mirror the same ratios found in the Great Pyramid and in the Fibonacci sequence of nature. Different continents, different cultures, one geometry. The Vedas proclaim, Yata pinde tata brahmande. As is the atom, so is the universe. Once again, the same hermetic law echoes across civilizations. The microcosm and the macrocosm are mirrors of each other, bound by the same numerical pulse. Hidden beneath these traditions lies an even older memory, the legend of Atlantis. Thoth the Atlantean, in the Emerald Tablets, claimed that this knowledge of sacred measure was brought from that lost world, preserved by initiates as humanity fell into forgetfulness. He wrote, "Geometry is the key to the gate of the stars. He who masters it becomes a builder of worlds." Whether Atlantis was myth or memory, the geometry remains unchanged, undying, passed from age to age like a torch of eternal understanding. The ancients built more than monuments. They built reflections of the divine order. And in every temple, every diagram, every equation carved in stone, they left a message for the future. When you remember the numbers, you will remember the light.
Among all the numbers that thread through the universe, one stands apart. A number so mysterious, so omnipresent, that it has been called the breath of creation itself. The ancients called it phi. The Greeks knew it as the golden ratio, a simple proportion, 1 to 1.618. But within that ratio lies the signature of divine intelligence. It is the hidden rhythm that shapes beauty, balance, and life itself. From the spiral of a galaxy to the curve of a petal, from the proportions of your face to the beating of your heart, phi governs them all.
To understand phi is to glimpse how the universe organizes itself. Imagine dividing a line so that the smaller part relates to the larger as the larger relates to the whole. This self-similar harmony repeats endlessly, each division birthing another, mirroring itself across scales. That simple ratio creates the Fibonacci sequence. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, and so on, each number the sum of the two before it. This sequence appears everywhere in nature: the petals of flowers, the spiraling seeds of a sunflower, the pattern of a pine cone, the growth of shells and hurricanes. Even the DNA helix follows this spiral. It's as if the universe is whispering in its own mathematical language. I expand through phi. I grow through harmony. Leonardo da Vinci called it the divine proportion and used it to sketch the Vitruvian Man, a symbol of perfect human symmetry. The distance from your navel to your feet compared to your height, the length of your forearm to your hand, the spacing of your facial features, all echo the same ratio. To the mystics of old, this was not coincidence. They believed that because humanity was made in the image of God, the geometry of the divine must be written into our flesh. And so it is. The temple of man reflects the temple of the cosmos. You are the living embodiment of sacred mathematics. Artists and architects throughout history sought to capture this elusive perfection. The Parthenon in Greece, the pyramids of Egypt, the Renaissance cathedrals of Europe, all bear the proportions of phi. Even the human-made echoes the divine. In music, the structure of sonatas, the placement of climaxes, and even harmonic intervals resonate with phi. In nature, bees build honeycombs using hexagons, the shape that emerges when circles of equal diameter overlap in phi alignment. In art,
The human eye instinctively recognizes beauty when it follows this divine pattern. It is as though we are hardwired to remember the geometry of paradise. But what makes Phi sacred is not merely its beauty, it's its universality. It's not limited to biology or architecture. It appears in the fabric of the cosmos itself. The spiral arms of the Milky Way follow the same ratio. So does the orbit of Venus and Earth, whose celestial dance forms a perfect five-pointed star when traced across 8 years. 5, another sacred number, symbol of life, humanity, and the pentagram, whose every angle reveals Phi. In the Corpus Hermeticum, ancient texts of ancient Egypt and Greece, it is written, God geometrizes. To geometrize is to express divine order through number and form. Phi is that expression, the pulse by which the divine breathes creation into existence. Even in the chaos of the quantum field, scientists have found Phi relationships between atomic orbitals and energy levels. In the heart of turbulence, order persists. In the dance of uncertainty, geometry still reigns. But why would creation choose this specific ratio? Because Phi represents balance through asymmetry, the perfect imperfection. It is not static. It moves. It breathes. Phi spirals infinitely, expanding, yet never repeating, like the evolution of consciousness itself. In this way, the golden ratio is a mirror of the soul's journey, ever growing, never identical, always harmonizing with what came before. In every spiral of Phi, there is the story of becoming. The atom becoming molecule, the cell becoming organism, the human becoming divine. It's no wonder that mystics across ages saw in Phi a reflection of the Creator's mind. To them, it was not a number to be studied, but a mystery to be contemplated, a meditation on how unity becomes multiplicity without losing its harmony. Phi is the sacred yes of creation, the moment when infinity chooses to take form.
There is a symbol older than language, older than empire, older even than memory itself. It appears carved into the stone of Abydos in Egypt, etched into the granite walls of the Osirion temple, drawn in monasteries, temples, and manuscripts from China to Mesopotamia. A perfect lattice of interlocking circles, a pattern so simple yet so infinite that the ancients called it the flower of life. To the untrained eye, it is just art, but to the initiate, it is the geometry of creation, a living map of how the one becomes the many.
Every flower begins with a single circle, the source. Then a second circle overlaps it, birthing the vesica piscis, the almond-shaped womb of creation. From this union, light divides itself again and again, forming 6 more circles around the first. This is the seed of life. 7 circles symbolizing the 7 days of creation, the 7 chakras, the 7 notes of the cosmic scale. Expand it further, and the pattern unfolds endlessly, each new layer echoing the proportions of Phi, each intersection birthing another universe of possibility. The ancients believe this pattern described the very act of divine emanation, spirit crystallizing into matter through sacred mathematics. In the flower's matrix lie hidden shapes, the egg of life, fruit of life, and within them the 5 platonic solids, the cube, tetrahedron, octahedron, icosahedron, and dodecahedron. These are not mere polygons.
They are the building blocks of existence. Every molecule, every crystal, every structure of nature emerges from these 5 geometries. To Plato, they were the skeleton of the cosmos. To the Hermetic initiates, they were the thoughts of God frozen into form. The cube became earth, stability, and matter. The tetrahedron, fire, transformation. The octahedron, air, balance. The icosahedron, water, fluidity. And the dodecahedron, ether, the unseen fabric that binds them all. When you trace these shapes within the flower of life, you are literally tracing the architecture of reality. In the temples of Egypt, the flower was a symbol of resurrection and cosmic order. Leonardo da Vinci studied it in secret notebooks, dissecting its proportions to understand the mathematics of life and art. In Kabbalistic mysticism, its geometry gives rise to the tree of life, a diagram of the soul's descent into matter and return to source. In the Sufi tradition, similar interlaced circles form the basis of their sacred art, a meditation on unity within multiplicity. The same geometry appears in Islamic mosaics, Gothic cathedrals, and Tibetan mandalas. Cultures separated by oceans and time, all drawing the same design, as if guided by a single invisible hand. Hidden within the flower of life is another form, the Merkaba, 2 interlocked tetrahedrons spinning in opposite directions. In Hebrew, Merkaba means chariot, and mystics believed it to be the vehicle of the soul, a light body geometry that allows consciousness to move between dimensions. When the soul activates this pattern within itself, it aligns with the geometry of the universe. Matter, mind, and spirit begin to vibrate as one. The human becomes the bridge between heaven and earth. In this way, the flower of life is not just an image to look at. It is a technology of remembrance, a map of ascension encoded in pure form. Modern science now finds echoes of this same design everywhere. Cells divide following the pattern of the seed of life. Snowflakes crystallize in hexagonal harmony. The electromagnetic field of Earth forms a torus, the same circular flow hidden within the flower's overlapping curves. Even the structure of space-time itself, according to quantum geometry, arranges in tetrahedral lattices. The universe, it seems, still glooms by the same law. Why did every ancient culture revere this pattern? Because to gaze upon it is to remember that creation is not random, it is rhythmic. Every curve is a breath of God. Every intersection, a moment where spirit chooses to become visible. The flower of life tells us that separation is an illusion. All things interconnect. Every life, every planet, every soul is a circle within circles, part of one eternal bloom that never ceases to expand. And perhaps that is why those who contemplate it often feel a quiet recognition, a resonance deep within the heart, as though something ancient stirs and whispers, "You are the geometry. You are the pattern remembering itself."
There is something extraordinary that happens when you begin to see geometry not as static shapes, but as living consciousness. Because when you trace the spirals of galaxies, the branching of trees, the unfolding of a fern, or even the rhythm of your own heartbeat, you begin to realize something profound. The universe is not built from matter, it is built from meaning.
and that meaning expresses itself through number, through ratio, through proportion, through a sacred dance between chaos and order, where life emerges as the conscious bridge between the two. Let's take the Fibonacci sequence again. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. It is not random. It is the pulse of divine breath manifesting through every form of life. Each number builds upon the one before it, as if creation itself remembers where it came from. This is the memory of God encoded in mathematics. The nautilus shell spiraling endlessly outward, the pinecone, the sunflower, the DNA helix, all following the same pattern. It's as if the cosmos left its fingerprint everywhere, reminding us that life is not mechanical, it is intelligent. And intelligence, true intelligence, is geometry infused with consciousness. Ancient mystics spoke of this. The Egyptians called it Ma'at, the divine order that keeps the stars aligned and the soul balanced. In India, the three yantra became the visual map of the cosmos, showing how pure consciousness descends into matter. And the Pythagoreans? They believed that to understand geometry was to hear the music of the spheres. Because geometry, at its core, is not visual, it is vibrational. It is sound turned into form. Every line, every spiral, every proportion is the silent echo of a cosmic frequency. And when you align with those frequencies through meditation, sound, or sacred design, your consciousness begins to harmonize with the divine architecture of creation itself.
You stop feeling separate. You become the pattern. You become the equation. You become the song. Imagine for a moment that your body is a cathedral. Every cell, every organ, every breath you take perfectly tuned to a sacred geometry that holds your being together. The ancients didn't build temples by accident. They built them as mirrors of the human soul. The Great Pyramid, Stonehenge, Angkor Wat, each structure is a resonant chamber, a place where geometry and spirit meet to amplify consciousness. Step inside such a space and your energy shifts. You feel it. You don't need to understand the math, your soul already does. Because geometry isn't something we study, it's something we remember. It's the universal language that existed before words, before religion, before separation. A geometry that whispers, you are part of something infinite, something perfect, something alive. When you meditate, pray, or simply sit in stillness, you're not just connecting to peace. You're aligning with that sacred geometry that underlies all things. Your breath becomes a rhythm. Your heartbeat becomes a pattern. And the silence between your thoughts becomes the canvas where the divine shapes reality itself.
And that's the true revelation of sacred geometry. It's not about shapes drawn on paper. It's not even about the stars or the pyramids. It's about remembering that the divine is coded into you. Every thought, every heartbeat, every dream you've ever had, all part of the same cosmic design that built the stars. Because you, too, are geometry made conscious, a living mandala of divine proportion, a number that remembers its source.
Deep within your energy field, beyond the flesh, beyond thought, beyond the shifting currents of emotion, lies a structure, luminous, intelligent, and eternal. It is called your divine blueprint, and it too is written in geometry. You are not simply a soul inside a body. You are a fractal expression of universal consciousness, a living, breathing projection of the same geometric order that governs the stars. The ancients knew this. They mapped it in temples, in mandalas, in the very architecture of the human form. Every chakra, every energy center is positioned with divine mathematical precision. When these geometric patterns align and flow, you feel balanced, luminous, connected. But when they distort through fear, trauma, or disconnection from source, the geometry bends. The energy collapses inward, and you begin to forget your shape, your divine proportions, your truth. Think of your heart chakra, for instance. In sacred geometry, it is symbolized by the six-pointed star, two interlocking triangles, one pointing upward, the other downward. It represents the union of spirit and matter, the balance of giving and receiving, heaven descending into earth, and earth rising to meet heaven. When your heart is open, that geometry spins in harmony, sending waves of golden green light through your field, aligning your personal energy with the geometry of divine love. That is why love feels expansive, because geometrically, it expands your field toward infinity. Your throat chakra resonates with the octahedron, a perfect balance of above and below, left and right, inner and outer. When you speak truth, that geometric light spins faster. When you suppress your truth, it slows, and your voice, both physical and spiritual, begins to fade. Your third eye, the seat of intuition, resonates with the Merkaba, a star tetrahedron, two interlocked pyramids of light. When activated, it forms a vehicle of consciousness, a spinning field that can transport your awareness between dimensions. And at the center of it all, your crown chakra radiates the pure geometry of the circle, the symbol of eternity, unity, and divine oneness. Everything you are, every cell, every vibration is sacred geometry in motion. When you heal, you are realigning your geometry. When you meditate, you are tuning your energy to the original pattern, the one that existed before your first breath. That is why sacred geometry appears in healing symbols like the flower of life,
the Sri Yantra, and the Metatron's cube, because each of these is not just art, but a key, a frequency map that reminds your soul how to remember itself. When you gaze at them or meditate with them, your energy body subtly begins to reconfigure, rebuilding itself according to the divine proportions encoded within them. You begin to hum with the frequency of Source.
This is the deeper mystery. You were never disconnected from God. You simply forgot your geometry. The soul's journey through lifetimes, lessons, and awakenings is the process of reassembling your sacred pattern, of remembering that you are already the perfect ratio, the perfect equation in the divine design.
So, the next time you meditate, imagine your body surrounded by sacred light. See the flower of life pulsing gently around you. See the Merkaba spinning within you, balancing your masculine and feminine energies. See the golden ratio spiral rising from your heart, expanding outward into the cosmos. Because in that vision, in that stillness, you are literally reprogramming your reality through geometry. You are becoming a conscious co-creator again. You are not just looking at the universe's blueprint, you are becoming it. And as that realization dawns, something beautiful happens. The numbers no longer feel cold or abstract. They begin to sing. Because numbers, true numbers, are living entities. They are the sacred language of creation, whispering the same message through all time. You were made in harmony. You were made in light. You were made in divine proportion.
Have you ever noticed the same number following you again and again? 1111 on a clock, 2222 on a license plate, 333 in a dream. Most people call them coincidences, but in truth, there are no coincidences. There are only codes, messages, hidden in plain sight, woven into the mathematics of reality itself. These repeating numbers are not random. They are the universe's way of speaking geometry through time. A digital echo of the same divine order that once built galaxies and temples, now reaching you through your phone screen, your receipts, your dreams. It is sacred geometry, alive and aware, reminding you, you are part of the pattern. You are never alone. Every number holds vibration. Every vibration carries a message. To the ancients, this was not numerology, it was the language of creation. In the Kabbalistic tree of life, numbers represent emanations of the divine. In Pythagorean mysticism, each number was a living archetype, a consciousness with its own sacred role in creation. And in the Vedic tradition, numbers map the rhythm of karma and rebirth. Modern science now whispers the same truth, that reality is a holographic projection encoded in frequency and mathematical proportion. So when you see repeating numbers, you are glimpsing the underlying geometry of synchronicity, a moment when your inner pattern aligns with the cosmic one. That's why it feels electric, because for an instant, you and the universe are speaking the same language. Let's decode a few of these sacred messages. 1111, the awakening code. The universe calling you to awareness. It represents twin pillars, like the gates of initiation, inviting you to step through the veil of illusion and remember your divinity. When you see 1111, your geometry is aligning with Source. It's the universe whispering, "The door is open. Step through." 222, the code of balance, the sacred number of harmony between dual forces, spirit and matter, light and shadow. When 222 appears, the universe is reminding you to trust the timing, to know that balance is being restored even when chaos surrounds you. 333, the Trinity Code, the power of creation itself, body, mind, and spirit in perfect alignment. It is the pulse of divine manifestation, the geometry of heaven and earth uniting to birth something new. 444, the Foundation Code, 4 directions, 4 elements, 4 corners of creation. When this appears, your angels, or what the ancients called the architects of form, are reinforcing your structure, stabilizing your energy field. 555, the code of transformation, the sacred spiral turning again. When this appears, your geometry is shifting. Old patterns collapse so that new ones can emerge. The universe is literally redesigning your energy blueprint. And 999, the completion code, the spiral closing one loop before beginning another. It is the number of endings, release, transcendence, the moment before the soul ascends to its next octave. Each of these numbers isn't just a symbol, it's a resonance, a frequency that aligns your soul to the living mathematics of creation. They are like checkpoints, tiny bursts of divine synchronicity reminding you where you are on your path. When you pay attention, you start to see the invisible architecture behind every moment, every delay, every meeting, every whisper of intuition, perfectly measured. And that is when reality starts to shimmer. Because once you begin to listen, you realize the universe has been speaking to you all along, not in words, but in numbers, shapes, and rhythm. You see, sacred geometry is not just what the universe is made of, it's how the universe communicates. When your frequency rises, you begin to perceive the code directly, in music, in nature, in people, in time. You become a decoder of divine patterns. And slowly, you remember, you are not separate from the code. You are part of it. You are the living number in God's equation. So the next time a number repeats, don't just glance and move on. Pause, breathe, and feel the pulse of infinity behind it. Because in that moment, the universe is not just showing you a number, it's showing you yourself, the pattern, the geometry, the eternal rhythm of creation.
Everything that has ever existed began with a vibration. Before there was light, before there was form, there was sound. not sound as we hear it, but a cosmic tone, a primordial resonance rippling across the infinite stillness. A word unspoken, a frequency that divided the void into pattern. And from that sacred hum, geometry was born. Ancient traditions have whispered this truth in countless tongues. In the Vedic scriptures, creation began with Om, the syllable that birthed the universe through vibration. In the Gospel of John, it is said, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." That word was not speech, it was frequency. In Egyptian cosmology, the god Thoth shaped worlds by uttering divine tones, and in indigenous creation songs, the earth itself was sung into being. Every myth points to one truth: sound is the architect of reality. Science now echoes what the ancients knew. When sound passes through matter, sand, water, air, it organizes that matter into geometric patterns, circles, spirals, mandalas. This is known as cymatics, the study of how sound becomes shape. If you've ever seen water vibrate to a tone and form a perfect six-pointed star, you've witnessed creation in motion. That star is geometry singing. That tone is consciousness carving form out of energy. Every cell in your body, every atom in your world is held together by vibration, by music so ancient we forgot we were the song. Your heartbeat is not just a rhythm, it is an echo of the cosmic drum that keeps galaxies turning. Your voice is not just sound, it is frequency capable of shifting your entire field of energy. When you speak words of love, they create harmonic geometry. When you speak in anger, they distort it. This is why words carry power, because every syllable builds or breaks the geometry of your soul. And when you chant, sing, or tone with intention, you realign your inner architecture to the vibration of Source. That is why ancient temples were designed for sound. The pyramids, the cathedrals, the stone circles, all tuned to resonate with specific frequencies, turning worship into pure harmonics. When sound meets structure, geometry awakens. And when consciousness joins them both, reality takes form. You are surrounded by this symphony all the time. The hum of the earth beneath your feet, the whisper of wind through trees, the rhythm of your breath. Each one plays a note in the great orchestra of existence. When you close your eyes and listen, truly listen, you begin to hear it. The music of the spheres, the harmony that Pythagoras once spoke of, the song that binds planets, atoms, hearts, and souls. And in that harmony, you recognize something breathtaking. You are not listening to the universe. You are part of its song. So when you chant, sing, or even whisper to the divine, you're not sending a prayer outward. You are vibrating your geometry back into alignment with the cosmic melody that first gave you life. Each tone, each hum, each heartbeat, a note in the eternal score of creation. And perhaps, when the universe listens back, it hears not a human voice, but its own reflection, singing through you. Because sacred geometry and sacred sound
are not two separate mysteries. They are one. Light is geometry. Sound is geometry in motion. And you are both the pattern and the song.
Light does not simply travel, it builds. Every photon, every ray that dances across the cosmos is a geometric blueprint in motion. When light slows, it crystallizes into matter. When it vibrates freely, it becomes consciousness. And the bridge between the two is geometry. In the beginning, before form, there was the sacred void, the field of pure potential. Then came vibration, sound, the cosmic word. That vibration began to oscillate, intersect, spiral, and from its harmonics, light emerged. But light did not scatter randomly. It wove itself into order, forming angles, ratios, and shapes that became the seeds of dimension itself. Every plane of existence, from the densest physical world to the highest celestial realms, is constructed from patterns of light arranged through sacred geometry. In esoteric tradition, these patterns are known as the Platonic solids, 5 perfect geometries that serve as the foundation of all matter and consciousness. The tetrahedron, fire, transformation, spirit in motion. The cube, earth, structure, stability. The octahedron, air, balance, breath. The icosahedron, water, emotion, flow. And the dodecahedron, ether, the breath of God, the geometry of the universe itself. These are not just abstract forms, they are the scaffolding of creation. Each solid builds upon the last, expanding creation's symmetry through higher octaves. From one point of light, reality unfolds outward, forming lines, triangles, pentagons, spheres, and finally, entire worlds. And the pattern repeats endlessly. Microcosm to macrocosm, atom to galaxy, soul to source. What you call dimension is not a place, it is a frequency pattern. Each realm of existence is tuned to a different geometric vibration of light. To move between them is to change your pattern.
This is what ascension truly means. Not rising upward, but expanding inward, refining your geometry until it harmonizes with higher light frequencies. When mystics speak of the body of light, they are describing a geometry so refined, so symmetrical, that it can exist beyond physical form. This body is built through consciousness, through meditation, through truth, through love. Every thought of compassion sharpens your geometry. Every act of fear distorts it. That is why awakening feels like light pouring through you, because it is literally reconstructing your divine architecture. In ancient mystery schools, initiates were taught to visualize geometric light structures surrounding their bodies. The Merkaba, for example, a star tetrahedron of interlocking light. When activated, it became a vehicle of ascension, a geometric ship of consciousness capable of crossing dimensions. In modern metaphysics, this same field is being rediscovered through quantum physics and photonic science, revealing that consciousness itself manipulates light geometry. You are not trapped in 3 dimensions. You are merely vibrating within one frequency band of infinite light structures. Change the frequency, and the geometry of your reality rearranges. Think of it this way: your thoughts are angles, your emotions are curves, your intentions are vectors that direct energy through light. The reality you experience is not imposed upon you, it is built by the geometry of your inner state. That is why prayer, gratitude, and visualization have power. They reshape the lattice of light that constructs your world. They send new coordinates into the matrix. The moment your frequency changes, the architecture of reality bends to meet it. You are not a passive observer of this geometry. You are the architect.
And as you awaken to this truth, you begin to see everything, every atom, every thought, every soul, as part of one luminous cathedral of divine design. The stars above you are the same geometry that lives inside your cells. The grid of light that holds galaxies in orbit is the same pattern that keeps your heart beating. Because there is no separation, only geometry, endlessly folding, breathing, awakening through you. If the universe was built by geometry, then so were we. Our bodies are not random, they are temples of divine mathematics. Every curve, every proportion, every rhythm within you echoes the geometry that shapes stars and galaxies. The ancients said, "The body is the microcosm of the macrocosm." In other words, what exists in the universe exists within you. Look closely, and you'll see. The same Fibonacci spiral that forms the galaxies also shapes your DNA. The same golden ratio that designs seashells defines the proportions of your face. Your navel is the 0 point, the origin of your own sacred geometry. From there, your body expands in harmonic ratios, forming symmetry that mirrors the architecture of creation. Even your breath follows sacred timing. The rhythm of your heartbeat, your inhale and exhale, your brainwaves all vibrate within patterns of phi, pi, and fractal resonance. You are not separate from the laws of geometry. You are geometry, breathing itself into motion.
And this is why spiritual awakening often begins in the body. When you meditate, when you breathe deeply, when you align your spine, you're not just relaxing, you are realigning your geometry with the cosmic template. You're tuning your inner spirals to the same divine frequencies that move the stars.
The ancients knew this too. That's why yogis held the lotus pose, a living symbol of sacred symmetry. Why the Egyptians wrapped mummies in spiral patterns, the geometry of rebirth. Why Leonardo da Vinci drew the Vitruvian Man, the perfect human inscribed within the circle and the square, balanced between heaven and earth. You are the living flower of life. Every cell, every breath, every thought, a petal of the divine design unfolding in time. And maybe this is the real message hidden within sacred geometry, that God did not build the universe and then place you in it. God built the universe through you. At the edge of all creation, beyond sound, beyond form, geometry becomes light. Not the light that burns in the sky, but the living light that breathes intelligence into matter. Every triangle, every spiral, every seed of life is a frozen moment of divine luminosity, light crystallized into pattern. This is where geometry and consciousness meet. The ancients called it the light grid, the divine architecture underlying all realms, from the densest stone to the most ethereal plane of being. When geometry begins to spin fast enough, it ceases to be form. It becomes vibration. It becomes thought. It becomes you. Every being on the path of awakening is learning, consciously or unconsciously, to move up this spectrum, from pattern to light. Meditation, prayer, sacred movement, chanting, these are not just rituals. They are acts of geometric transformation. They reconfigure your energy field from heavy, tangled lines into crystalline harmonics. And as your energy becomes coherent, light begins to flow more freely through your geometry. Your aura expands. Your cells begin to remember their divine blueprint. You start to see synchronicities, repeating numbers, visions in dreams, signs that your personal geometry is syncing with the universal grid.
This is ascension, not a place, but a frequency. When your geometry aligns perfectly with Source, your light body activates. You become what the ancients called a Merkaba, the vehicle of light. Two interlocking tetrahedrons spinning in opposite directions, forming a luminous field that can transcend dimensions. The Egyptians described it as the chariot of the soul. The Hebrews called it the Merkava, the throne of God. Modern mystics call it the light body, but the essence remains the same: geometry awakening into light.
And in that moment, you realize something profound. You are not evolving toward the light, you are remembering that you are the light. Geometry was simply the map, the sacred bridge guiding you home to yourself. When geometry becomes light, you no longer observe creation, you participate in it. Every thought is a spiral. Every emotion is a wave. Every breath is a pulse of creation itself. You become the artist and the canvas, the number and the infinite. You become the universe, dreaming itself awake. There is a sacred silence at the center of all geometry, the still point from which everything spirals outward and to which everything must return. In that silence dwells the divine architect, not a being watching from above, but the consciousness within every circle, every seed, every golden ratio that holds the stars in place. It is the mind that dreamt the universe into symmetry and then hid itself within its own design. You were never separate from that mind. You were never outside the pattern. You are the living thought of the architect, geometry that learned to speak, to love, to remember. When you gaze into a mandala, or trace the spiral of a shell, or see the geometry of your own reflection, you are looking into the very signature of the source. You are witnessing the language that God used to say, "Let there be light." And maybe this was the secret all along, that the universe is not just a place we live in, but a masterpiece of awareness we're meant to awaken through.
Every line, every angle, every motion, a mirror reminding you are divine order wearing human skin. When you breathe, when you pray, when you move in harmony with the flow of life, you are rebuilding the temple of geometry within. The circle of unity, the triangle of manifestation, the spiral of evolution, the cube of foundation, each a doorway leading back to the eternal truth that there is no chaos, only patterns we have yet to understand. And one day, when the veil fully lifts and the human spirit remembers its origin, we will see what the mystics saw, a universe made not of matter, but of meaning. We will remember that geometry was never about numbers at all. It was always about consciousness shaping itself into beauty. So tonight, as you look up at the stars, know this: you are not looking into space. You are looking into the mind of God, and that mind is looking back at you. You are the geometry of creation, remembering itself.
What if geometry isn't just the foundation of the universe, but the language of God remembering itself through us? Every time you draw, you breathe, you fall in love. The pattern repeats, the circle expands, the spiral turns again. Each thought you send into the world becomes a frequency, each emotion a vibration, each act of kindness a new ripple in the cosmic grid.
So maybe the point of sacred geometry was never to understand it, but to become it. To live symmetrically, to think harmonically, to love geometrically with precision, beauty, and balance.
And when you do, you no longer chase the divine. You move with it. You breathe in rhythm with the architect. You walk the corridors of infinity, not as a guest, but as a creator.
Because the numbers that built the universe were never outside of you. They are you.
This is divine truth seekers, and the geometry continues.